Okay, so Ehrman incarnated, and he incarnated in a particular individual, and if we're going to do real anthroposophy, we have to be able to name him. And the fact that we name him contemporary with his incarnation is going to bother some people. I don't think it's going to come to Karl Rove's attention. I don't think he cares a lot about it. And actually, if you read what I wrote in American Anthroposophy, you'll find that the fourth section is called Brother, What Ails Thee? Because we have to actually have sympathy for this human being who has incarnated. There was an incarnation of Lucifer in 3100 BC in the East, and then an incarnation of Christ 2,000 years ago in the center of the world, in Palestine, and then in America, the far west, the most material place in the planet, we have an incarnation of Ehrman, and it's as a human being. When these incarnations happen, there's actually a loss of power. This even happens to Christ. He's less and less the longer he's in existence, from the baptism of Jordan until the death on the cross, the less and less power he has. That was part of his divinity. And the same is true of Lucifer when he influenced Chinese thought, and also with Ehrman in that he's influenced the most earthly aspect of the social order by being part of the processes involved in public life. Now the details of that, and people are right to want details, but hey, think about it. This stuff is not simple, okay? That's why I write massive books and long articles about it. The best I can do, and the only reason for talking about it here is because we're going to have another annual general meeting in October in America, and they're not going to talk about it. So it has to be talked about somewhere. And it's going to be talked about here. Now, if you want to get into the shadow parts, I created a specific shadow booklet that one can get, and also I created a thing on my website where you can just read the material about the shadow that I produced for my own investigations of this phenomenon, which we all have. Now let's back up a little bit and tie this in with America, because any kind of details that people might want to have about why it's justified to identify Karl Rove as the incarnation of Ehrman, and also why we should do it in appreciation of his genius. There is no reason to make Karl Rove into a boogeyman. He's not a boogeyman. He's a genius. He's an outrageous genius. But he reflects something to us that's of our own nature. So when we look at him, we need to understand that part of it. And you'll find all that in my essay, Outrageous Genius, which is a big, long essay. Because you can't sort of take the idea of Rove out of the context in which I put it in. And if anybody does it, shame on you. Read the context. The reason Ehrman is who he is and what he does is in the context. Okay, America is a place where, and the Americas are a place where the mountains run north-south instead of east-west. And Steiner said, this is sort of the third thing we get out of Steiner, he said that there's earth forces that come out of the interior of the earth, and he doesn't mean, the magma mantle and the iron core that the materialists think about. He thinks he's talking about the 8 or 9 inner spheres of the interior of the earth. You might say the soul, or the spiritual aspects of the interior of the earth. And these make America have a certain set of characteristics which makes it the most earthly place on the planet. So not only do we have the life of rights being the most earthly aspect of the social order, but the most earthly place on the planet is America. And in order for Americans to live within this field of earth forces, we have this stronger double. And again, if you go to my material on Real Anthroposophy about the shadow, you'll have me saying that the shadow is a gift. We need this intelligence. It's not just a boogeyman inside us. It's a kind of intelligence that's useful to us, and we need to be able to appreciate it Okay, so when we talk about America and the life of rights and the shadow, it's a complicated subject. Don't just go by what's said here. Read stuff. That's the whole point that I was supported through means of inspiration by other beings during the processes of living thinking, that I created these essays and writings over many years. And the fact that it can't appear within the Anthroposophical Society is a problem with the Anthroposophical Society, not with the beings and not with me. You know, the Anthroposophical Society has its own double, its own shadow. But it doesn't talk about it because who wants to pay any attention to that? And we'll get into that as real anthroposophy goes forward. But with the coming up thing in Chicago on the annual general meeting, I thought you should get this story and some hints about what's what. I hope you find it useful. Bye.